Okay, here we are on day 4 of Tour of America's Dairyland, and we are racing in Waukesha, Wisconsin. This course has a little bit of history for me. I was involved in a crazy crash here a couple years ago. There was a pedestrian on a city cruiser bike and didn't understand what was happening, so he came out perpendicular to the middle of the field, and I had a camera on the bike and I smashed right into him and he blew up the entire peloton. So it's a crazy video. It's had some virility to it, so if you want to find that, it's in my list of videos. I think it's called Waukesha Spectator Crash, and I'll put a link up in the description of this video as well so you can see it, but it's pretty gnarly. So today was Sunday, and I was excited to race this course because they changed the layout of it quite a bit, and I like the new layout. I know there's a lot of chatter among the racers. Some people liked it. Most people, I'd say, like the old one a little bit more. I really thought this was good. So anyway, the group, I think we're 50 something when we started this race. This is Father's Day. Didn't seem to affect attendance in any negative way, so that's all right. And so this is a tough race. You might be able to tell from the duration of this race that it's only 20 minutes, or this video is only 20 minutes, that that is not going to be a complete race. And you are correct. That is not going to be a complete race. So don't worry. I have a little excuse built in. It's not a very good one, but it's all I got. So this course has got plenty of twists and turns. The layout map up there is obviously wrong. So it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7.5 to 8 turns, depending on how you count the last one. So it's fairly technical, smooth roads though, thank goodness. No complaints there. This turn here in the old course used to be much more hairy, but they somehow smoothed that out, or we went a different intersection. I'm not sure why it's better now, but it's definitely better. And then in the old course we would turn right here. Oh, I get it. Yeah. In the old course we would go a block further down the road, and we'd come up by those stoplights and turn right and go back the other way. But anyway, this course kind of loops around, does another lap around this big city center park in the middle of the town. And they had a nice little festival going there, some music, some beer, some brats, etc. So that was kind of neat. And Waukesha always gets a good turnout for the race. It's a neat town. There's a lot of little shops and restaurants on the main street where we're racing, so that's kind of cool. And the competition for this race is always really hot. It's a great sprint at the end because it's slightly uphill, and it's just a hair too far from the corner, but it's pretty close. Depending on how you sprint, you might be able to just take that out. So I get impatient with sprints, so I usually go for it. But anyway, you will not be seeing me sprint today, so yay. So this course was, you know, that what people didn't like about it was the roads were so big that it was, I don't understand why people don't like that necessarily, but they don't like having these giant roads. Again, I have no idea why that is the case. So this guy ahead of me there in the blue kit, he's funny. We'll have a little interaction with him later. So he's not the most comfortable guy in a crit race. I will start with that preview of what happens in a little bit. He just seems very much on edge. Definitely not relaxed. Not sure that he's having a lot of fun. So we'll see. I talked to one of his riding buddies in Chicago, and their estimation was that he's just so tall that he has trouble turning, and I don't think that's the case. There's plenty of tall people that can turn a bike pretty phenomenally. So maybe just a little more practice. So, well, what's going to happen here, maybe it's coming up right now, is we'll go 2 turns from now. I think I'll come on the inside of him, and we'll see what the video says, because in real life it certainly didn't feel like it was that big of a deal, but his reaction was pretty priceless to my inside line. He was quite upset with me. And I'm just sitting there like looking around for somebody else he must be mad at because there's no way it could be me. Like you're upset with me? I feel like, oh, this is the one. All right, well we'll see. We'll see what you guys think. Is that inside line overly aggressive? I certainly don't think so. All right, so he's in the rearview mirror. See if we can. Well, at least no hand gestures. That's good. But he was definitely barking at me in the race there verbally about my character as a person. So, and here he comes back around. I think he just wants to kind of prove his point that he's in charge. So that's fine. And I'm just not bothered at all by it because I don't think I did anything wrong. So anyway, that's just racing. But it was, for the rest of the people watching it was. I don't want to pick on that gentleman. I'm sure he's a wonderful person. But his reaction was very amateurish, I guess. So we weren't that close. We didn't touch. I didn't chop his line. I didn't take an unusual line into that turn by any means. And his reaction to my line was just not reasonable. I mean, there was no danger to him at all. So that's kind of, I guess, a situation I talked about in some of the other videos where my ability to pull something off, which, I hate to even say that because it was definitely not an aggressive move, but my ability to pull something off is great, but that person doesn't know that I can do that. So it's a lot for them to absorb as another rider, just because you can do it. And what I'm really getting at is chopping these corners on the inside and diving the lines. Just because you can do it doesn't mean the riders around you know that, right? So their reaction to you doing that could be fairly catastrophic. So it's not just about your ability to get around that turn, it's about your fellow riders' understanding of your skills, right? So he doesn't know my skills. Not that I have exceptional skills, but he doesn't know that I can hold that turn all day long easily, and really anyone in this field could. But his reaction is such that he just doesn't. I guess the only interpretation I can say is that he doesn't think he could have done that turn. So what faith does he have in me that I could do it? So again, I think just with a little more time in the saddle, a little more practice, I feel like he'd be in great shape, and then he wouldn't waste all that energy reacting to me. And that's really, a big part of the story there too, is that reaction that he displayed was, I mean, it's mildly annoying for me, but it was no big deal. But for him, he's all worked up and he's got adrenaline coursing through his body now because he thought I was going to for sure take him out. And it's just one more point of tension in a race that you don't need to be adding tension to. So this course was, filled with turns, and it straightened right out. So this was pretty much the battle, start to finish, was just this long line of riders. I don't think, my theory on this Masters Racing Series is that at about 12 minutes we slow down, 10, 12 minutes, somewhere in there. We have a meeting of the mind, so to speak, and we regroup, and then there's more attacks. But it's not a long respite, but it is a respite, and it is something I was desperately looking forward to in this race. So we'll experience, maybe here's a little bit of a slowdown going into this turn. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like it slowed down much, that's for sure. And then I'm going to have a problem coming up here with getting gapped by another rider, and then I'm able to claw my way back with the help of another rider, and pretty much all because of another rider I'm able to get back on. But we'll see what happens here. But I'm not feeling super confident right now. I had a relatively decent starting spot, not too bad, pretty middle of the pack, but I mean, these guys up in the front are initiating the next turn, and I'm still coming around the last turn. So you can see them, we're crest this hill, and they're turning. Yeah, lead riders are already turning, and I have literally a whole city block to go before I even start that turn. It's just crazy. There's just no way that I'm going to be a competitive rider until I can figure out a way to move up in these races. And I just don't have the fitness to blast by people on these straightaways and then recover once I'm up there, recover enough to stay near the front. So, I think somebody asked me, it might have been my teammate John, who I went down here with, is it a fitness issue, or is it a, a race intelligence issue, I guess, for lack of a better term, or race awareness? And it's always fitness. I really feel it's always fitness. I mean, there's the basics, which we all have covered, is turning your bike and being comfortable in a pack and drafting and things like that. But just that level of fitness to be able to get up there and and it gives you two things. It gives you the ability to be up there and respond to minor little, okay, here's my first gap. That gentleman was nice enough to let me know that he was fading, so I can cover that one. But there's always a little cost, to those movements. But at least he told me that was happening, so that was nice. Appreciate that. In any event, the fitness gives you the confidence to be able to respond to a little a little gap like that, cover that, and come around. No big deal when you're really fit. When you're fit on the level of the guys that are charging the top end of this race. And I'm just not there. So I'm not positive I'll get there. Just not. We'll see. That is a long, long string of riders, that's for sure. So after I dropped out of this race, there was a crash, unfortunately, and I think the series, not the leader, because I saw him go by earlier, but Hunter East is his name, was certainly a force. I believe he was maybe second overall in the series, and won a race for sure. Anyway, very strong rider, very well known in the peloton, a lot of respect. So I don't think I've ever met him, but he's from Oklahoma. Apparently a great rider. He's been at it for a long time, so good stuff. But he got in an accident, and I saw him the next day in a neck brace, so that's not good. But sounds like the rumor mill is that he's going to be able to recover from that pretty well, and which is good. So you hate to see that anytime you're racing a bike, of course. I'm not sure what happened, but it sounds like there was just a pile up of riders going faster and riders going slower in one of these turns on the backside. So heal fast, my friend, heal fast. Oh, let's see. How much footage do I have left? We're a little over halfway of my existence in this race, so it's going to be a short day. So a little preview on the rest of the week. So this is Sunday, and on a Monday race, I was cutting it close. See, there's a big gap, right? That field is definitely split, and this is a problem. So, yeah. I'm going to latch on to Derek here, and we're going to try to close this. It was yeah, thanks for the elbow, buddy. It was a quick elbow, I have to say. So, I don't know if he caught my wheel after that. No, I went by too fast. So, sorry for that. So there's the group. Yeah, I did watch this video a little bit earlier, and I thought, I couldn't remember if I had caught the group from this point on or not. It was just such a fuzzy memory. So that rider's fading and not going fast enough. Now here's where I make a mistake. This rider comes past, and he's got full charge, and I thought for sure that other rider that we just passed was going to be on his wheel, and I could sink in behind these guys. I thought there were 4 or 5 guys behind that guy, but there wasn't. Oh, desperately wish I would have got that wheel. It would have been much easier. So behind me, you can see there's a little pile of guys, and this guy is just cooked. So now I still have to close this gap to the guy that went by earlier, so I just wasted energy being at the quote-unquote front, going through the start-finish area. That guy fades, and then I got to close this gap to get to this gentleman. And a very strong ride by this friend of mine here. So I would have liked to have been able to help, but I was gassed from that previous effort, and as you can see here, I never really closed this gap. He's always just that extra foot ahead of me, and that's costing me a lot. I mean, I'm doing 450, 400 watts. I'm not getting much draft here. And things like that are my fault right there, where I just let him slip ahead. I see the group, and I'm like, oh yeah, we'll get it, and then mentally kind of turn off before it's time to turn off. That's just not smart, right? So he's going to hit it after this turn because he's going to close this thing, and I am just in la-la land, not really on his wheel, and not hopping around him or whatever the case is. So just not great racing right there by me, that's for sure. So what it should have done is just gone that extra little effort. Obviously, easier to say when you have a microphone and not being out there. So you can see him shake his head there. He looks back that nobody helped him, and he's a little dismayed by our lack of performance. So sorry, I didn't have a lot of choice in that. So. All right, so now we come around the front, and somebody on the front is gunning it, and this is going to be difficult for me to get back onto this one as well. So again, I'm just not in that draft. I'm just off the draft, and it's just costing me effort. Again, here we're all slowing down. Just 2 more pedal strokes, and I would have been right up there on the wheel. And this turn was interesting. You know, my friend on the way home, John, my teammate, was saying, you know, maybe I didn't have good lines through the turns or whatever the case was, and I feel like I told him, I'm like, you know, I just don't think we were in that race long enough to figure those things out. So here's my excuse. Here's what happened. My Garmin mount has failed, and my camera and Garmin are at a precarious angle right now in the race, and I thought that my bars had slipped pretty dramatically. So you can see me adjust the camera there, and then it'll fall back down as soon as I hit a bump. Yep, it falls back down. Well, it doesn't look dramatic on the footage, but I can tell you that camera was dangling out there. So somewhere in there, I took the Garmin off the mount and put it in my back pocket, and thought maybe that would alleviate some of the weight on the end of the mount. But I don't think it helped much. And now I'm just nervous about having. I mean, the reason I pulled off the group is I'm just nervous about having parts flying and things like that. So. I just felt like, I mean, I was gassed, let's be honest, but at the same time, my equipment failure, I refuse to let that be somebody else's problem. So could I have raced with my camera dangling there? Yeah, I could have kept going, but who knows if it's going to fall off. I mean, I wasn't worried about the camera. It's in its case. I'm not at all concerned about that, but just a chunk of plastic flying off a bike at 30 miles an hour is not what you want to see. So anyway, like I said, I took the mount off, and I tried to jam the mount together or crank in there or do anything I could to just get it to settle down. And I think here maybe I just let it sit and let it do its thing. So in any event, that was my little excuse for the day, that my mount was going to be dangerous, or was at least in my head, or I thought originally what happened again is I thought my bars had slipped because they slipped the day before. But in reality, the bars had not slipped, the mount had slipped, but it made it look like the bars had gone all wonky. So, but the bars were fine. In reality, the day before I put some carbon paste on them to solve the problem from Saturday. So definitely the bars had not moved, but once the mount moves, it was in my head. So here I'm just sort of soft pedaling through the course, not really sure if I'm going to pull off, or maybe time trial, or go home, or see if I can have somebody hand me a beer. I'm just sort of floating in no man's land here, not sure what I want to do. Catching the group is not one of those options. And maybe one thought should have been just let the group come around and be a lapped rider and join the speed again, and at least get the training load of being in a race. Since I drove all the way down there, or rode all the way down there, I may as well get some more race miles, because at this point, toad is a training exercise and not a competitive exercise. But I did not do that. Alright, so then I found, looking back, I saw this little group coming on. I saw them come around that turn. Okay, if you guys want to grab my wheel, I'm pretty fresh at this point. And our friend from earlier, for whatever reason, doesn't want to grab my wheels, so I'm not quite sure why that is. So I back off, and okay, I'll join you guys. So I jump in the mix and let him pull, and it's not a terribly strong pull, that's for sure. And he does a lot of side-to-side movement instead of just pounding the pedal. So, I mean, that bike is shaking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So anyway, if my friend here watches the video, that would be another thing for you to work on is have a quiet upper body. So these guys were told there's 1 lap to go, so they're going to sprint for this finish, but I was not told that, so I did not know that. I just went ahead here to take my pull, and then everybody started sprinting. I'm like, what the heck? I have no idea why they're doing that. And then I figure out that it must be because they got pulled. Now, I was not pulled, so I theoretically should have been able to do another lap, and I would have placed higher than them, but who cares at that point. So anyway, we all cooled down, and John and I got out of there pretty quick because that was not my best day of racing, that's for sure. Well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll look for you on Wednesday's race. I ended up missing Tuesday or Monday, and I definitely am not doing Tuesday. So we'll catch up with you in a few days.